the Hebrew language and registered in an ulpan, a Hebrew language school, for 3 months. The course was easy for me because Arabic, my mother tongue, is a Semitic language and a sister language to Hebrew. I did not study at all, yet I was one of the best students in the class. I loved learning a new language, and the hotel security guard, a friend of mine, was fluent in Hebrew. So when I finished my shift at 11 o'clock p.m., I would wait for him and we would walk back to our homes in the Christian Quarter together, practicing Hebrew all the way. We would arrive at the Damascus Gate close to midnight, two stupid fellows passing through the heart of the Muslim quarter during the worst days of the Intifada, speaking Hebrew. One night 3 men suddenly ran past us, their faces masked by black and white kufias. Shortly after, we heard 5 gunshots. My friend and I immediately switched to Arabic. And suddenly the same men ran by us in the other direction, shouting, "Run!" Obviously something serious had happened. I was so scared that I ran all the way home and slammed the door closed. Seconds later, I heard the footsteps of the police and the army running by. They had just missed me. The next day, I learned that a Jew had been killed near the steps leading to the Christian Quarter. I went to the university garden to be alone. If those Arab terrorists had overheard my friend and me speaking in Hebrew, they might have shot us too. God protected us that night. I told no one, but kept the incident in my heart. With my financial situation improving, Tony and I made down payments on 2 adjacent houses in Bir Nabala, an Arab village 15 minutes northeast of Jerusalem. Given our unstable family background as refugees, we wanted to secure our future. It meant a lot to me to own my own house. In the Middle East, we feel connected to our homes and land and families. These biblical values are engraved deeply in our souls, along with the early church's rich concern for community. During this time, the Lord enabled me to leave the American Colony Hotel and work full-time in ministry, plus 2 nights a week as watchman at the Christchurch Guest House inside Jaffa Gate. For 5 years, I worked hard to pay down the mortgage, and then financial calamity hit, riding on the wings of the Second Intifada. The fall of a dream. The Palestinian-Arab violence known as the Al-Aqsa Intifada, or the Second Intifada, began at the end of September 2000, and no one can say exactly when it ended, though some maintain it was in February 2005. It claimed almost 5,000 Palestinian Arab casualties, not counting the almost 600 killed in intra-Palestinian fighting, and more than 1,000 Israeli casualties. The economy of the West Bank and Gaza was ruined by Israeli incursions and security measures, by the restrictions on Palestinians working in Israel, and by the Palestinians diverting their infrastructure and resources to arms purchases and manufacture. The separation barrier, the Israeli security fence built to stop terror attacks, has disrupted Palestinian life in the West Bank ever since. Palestinians carrying explosives are still caught regularly at internal checkpoints. Large numbers of Israelis who had come to believe in the possibility of peace with the Palestinians felt betrayed by the Second Intifada. Personal relationships between Israelis and Palestinians fell apart, and my 5 years of paying for a home of my own evaporated in the single day and night it took the Israelis to build their wall, separating Bir Nabala from Jerusalem. No longer could I drive to my house in 15 minutes. Now I had to take a 2-hour route. I effectively lost my home to the separation barrier. I felt so broken. All the time, work, and money I had invested, all my dreams for the future, gone in 24 hours. Heart icon. Get up and keep going. Weakened by loss of blood and the effort of carrying his cross, Jesus staggered and fell beneath its weight. There are times in life when we too stumble beneath whatever burden it is we are carrying. The weight of it is too much for us. It drives us to the ground. But every walk with God imposes its load of difficulties. Jesus rose and walked on, and so must we. Whether our fall involves our career, our marriage, our finances, our health, or in my case, my home, whatever dream we have lost, whatever loss drives us to our knees on life's hard pavement, we must rise up in faith and continue on. More is at stake than we know, and our lives, broken and weak though they may be, are of great consequence. Take courage and fix your eyes on Jesus, who for the joy that was set before him endured the cross. Hebrews chapter 12, verse 2. Rise up again and continue on. Life may not be easy, but there is great reward when you get back up and keep walking. Dear Lord, forgive me when I let fear get in the way of my relationship with you. Forgive me for the times I have fallen short because I've been afraid. You promise provision and protection. Forgive me for failing to trust you when you've proven yourself to be completely worthy of my trust. Lord, Father, bring hope and faith and a relief from fear, despair, and grief over my losses. Chapter 4. Jesus meets his mother. Who can fathom the grief of Mary, Jesus' mother, as she watched her firstborn son, battered by Roman soldiers and shredded by the whip, carrying the cross on the way to his execution? Standing at the wayside, how could she not remember moment after moment of her life with him? His birth at Bethlehem amid the trying conditions of the Roman census, his laughter as he played with other children in the streets of Nazareth, his aptitude and patience as he learned carpentry from his earthly father, Joseph, her quiet pride as she watched him assume the trade on his own as a young man. Yet there were other memories as well, haunting ones that centered on his true identity and mission. Mary thought back to her relief at finding her 12-year-old in the midst of the teachers in the Jerusalem temple after he had gone missing, and his odd response, Luke chapter 2, verses 41 to 51. She recalled his family's and her own concern for his sanity, Mark chapter 3, verses 21 and verses 31 to 32. And with a pang, she could hear, echoing over the broad course of their intertwined lives as mother and son, the old man's prophecy spoken over the child on the day of his dedication. Simeon blessed them, and said to Mary his mother, Behold, this child is destined for the fall and rising of many in Israel, and for a sign which will be spoken against. Yes, a sword will pierce through your own soul also, that the thoughts of many hearts may be revealed. Luke chapter 2, verses 34 to 35. At the fourth station of the cross, we picture Mary, weaving amid the crowd, desperately seeking every possible glimpse of her son. And now at last there is an opening, and Mary breaks through and locks tearful eyes with her boy, her baby, her beloved child. Cross icon, the fourth station. The fourth station of the cross is located with the third station and is commemorated with it. They were combined in 2008 to make it easier for pilgrims to pray. Before then, it was situated 25 meters, 80 feet, farther down Alwad Street, but it was hard for pilgrims to stop in the middle of this fast-paced, noisy main route through the old city. It is full of distractions. A tractor towing a wagon of rolled-up rugs roars past. Egg crates and garbage sacks lie in the street where someone has stacked them. On the corner next to a small trolley, you see a man selling ring-shaped Arab bread rolls called kayek. $1, he cries. Yet here amid the modern clamor, this ancient pavement holds memories of centuries past. Named after the Arabic word for deep valley, Al-Wad Street follows the once deep ravine of the ancient Tyropian Valley, which cuts through the middle of the old city from Damascus Gate to Dung Gate, separating the Temple Mount from Mount Zion. The Armenian Church of Our Lady of the Spasm, commemorating Mary's intense grief, sits behind the walls at the fourth station. Excavations in 1874 revealed the remains of a Crusader church on that location, and when the Armenian chapel began to be built in 1881, foundation holes indicated that an even earlier Byzantine church had once stood there. In its crypt, a remarkable 5th century mosaic was exposed, including the outline of a pair of sandals said to have been Mary's. In 1483, Felix Fabri, a Dominican priest and pilgrim, called the ruin the Church of St. Mary at the Swoon. The Church of St. Mary at the Swoon. The place was considered holy, and Fabri reported a Crusader-era tradition that every attempt to build on it had been mysteriously destroyed. No one could even remove stones from the rubble. If you continue down to the south of Al-Wad Street, you will reach the western wall, which supports the Temple Mount platform where Solomon's Temple, the first temple, once stood in about 1000 BC. The temple was destroyed 400 years later by the Babylonians, but was reconstructed in 516 BC by Jews returning from exile in Babylon. It was greatly extended and embellished after 19 BC by King Herod. But in AD 70, the Romans destroyed this second temple, as Jesus had predicted, when they besieged Jerusalem and ruthlessly crushed a Jewish rebellion. The massive rock on the Temple Mount is where Abraham prepared to sacrifice Isaac, according to Jewish tradition, or Ishmael, according to Muslim. In Arabic, the Temple Mount area is known as Al-Haram al-Sharif, the noble sanctuary. This rock is now covered by the Muslim Dome of the Rock shrine. It is also said to be the rock on which Muhammad alighted on his horse Al-Barak on his alleged night journey from Mecca and back. Heart icon. Lessons from the farm. We Christians are strong like the olive tree. We will never die. We bring life and belong to the land. My mother's father, Bajes Shaheen, was walking with me, holding my small hand in his old one that had been weathered by many years of working the terraces of his farm at Ain Arik village in the West Bank. We will be here forever, never shaken by the wind or the storms, he told me. It was his way of saying, stay in this land. Indeed, his family had deep roots in the land. The Shaheens were one of 5 Christian families who founded nearby Ramallah, the mountain of God, some 500 years ago. They were a large family, well known in this area where Muslims and Christians live peacefully together. Here in Ain Arik, where natural springs run through the Palestinian village and pour into a large, lush valley full of fruit trees, my grandfather had worked the earth and raised his children. He knew all about the strength of olive trees, for his own extended family, Roman Catholic Palestinians, owned many profitable olive trees and almost half the land in the village. My grandfather taught me about the land. He showed me how to build and maintain the stone terraces that are characteristic of the Palestinian landscape. They prevent soil erosion, retain water, and make cultivation easier for the farmers. Today, however, people who can build them are not easy to find. Building terraces is a simple practice, but a vanishing one, because of course you have to learn it before you can do it, and both the learning and the doing take a community. This is so biblical. You cannot build terraces by yourself, just as a Christian cannot stand alone. We need each other. We are a body whose different parts are all joined together and are dependent on one another. 1 Corinthians chapter 12, verses 12 to 27. In the West, the sense of community has been displaced by individualism. It is all about me and mine. Christians need to rediscover what it means to think as a community. My grandfather used to rise early in the morning to prune his vineyard. Vineyards are a prominent theme in the Bible. Isaiah the prophet likened Israel to a vineyard planted on a fertile hillside. Isaiah chapter 5, verses 1 to 5. Jesus also used the vineyard metaphor. He is the true vine, we are the branches, and the Father is the farmer. John chapter 15, verses 1 to 8. A farmer's job is to create the best conditions for the vineyard to produce the fruit it is meant to produce. He prunes the branches to enhance their fruitfulness. He also employs special techniques to preserve moisture in the soil for rain-fed summer crops. At least, that is what farmers used to do. Like terrace building, The techniques and the terms are getting lost to the point that even people working in agriculture no longer know them. But in my grandfather's day, every farmer